They say owning a home is the American dream. But in 2025, is it still worth it? Or are you better off renting? In this video, we'll break down what they're not telling you about renting versus buying in today's unpredictable housing market. We'll compare costs, lifestyle freedom, taxes, and how equity actually builds, or doesn't. Plus, we'll show you how AI-powered rent versus buy calculators and 2025 housing forecasts are changing the way smart people make this decision. This isn't just theory. This is your future money, your freedom, and your next big move. Let's get into it. Right now, the housing market is nothing like it was even just 5 years ago. Prices have shifted. Interest rates have been on a roller coaster, and now with AI tools predicting market trends, the decision to rent or buy has more layers than ever. But before we throw a bunch of numbers at you, let's ground ourselves in something simple. What matters most is your lifestyle, your financial situation, and your long-term goals. Let's talk renting. In 2025, renting seems appealing on the surface. Less commitment, more flexibility, and no responsibility for repairs, property taxes, or surprise costs. Renters can move easily, change neighborhoods or cities without worrying about selling a home or market timing. That's especially important now when remote work, gig jobs, and side hustles have made it more normal to change jobs and locations frequently. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in 2025 in major U.S. metros like New York, LA, or San Francisco is hovering between $2,000 to $3,200 a month. In more affordable cities like Dallas, Atlanta, or Phoenix, you're looking at around $1,400 to $2,000. But rents aren't just about the price. They often include things like maintenance, trash, water, and sometimes even Wi-Fi. You don't need to worry about a broken water heater or a new roof. Someone else does. But here's the twist nobody tells you. Rent isn't just rent. You're paying 100% interest. That's right. Every dollar you pay goes to someone else's equity, not yours. And as AI-powered rent prediction models are forecasting, rent increases are expected to continue at 3 to 6% annually in many cities due to inflation, population growth, and housing shortages. So you might start at $1,800 per month, but in 5 years you could be paying well over $2,000. Now compare that to buying. In 2025, the median home price in the U.S. is around $415,000. But that varies wildly depending on where you live. Some cities are still booming, while others have cooled off. Let's say you're buying a $400,000 home with a 10% down payment. That's $40,000 upfront, plus closing costs, which can be another $8,000 to $12,000. And let's not forget mortgage rates, which are averaging around 6.5% in early 2025, depending on your credit. That's higher than the rock-bottom rates of 2020 to 2021, but it's stabilizing now. Your monthly mortgage payment on a $360,000 loan after the down payment would be around $2,300, give or take. Add in taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and you're looking at $2,800 to $3,100 per month. So yeah, buying isn't cheap. But here's where equity comes in. Unlike renting, part of your mortgage payment each month goes toward owning more of the home. And as home values go up, which they're forecasted to do at around 4% annually over the next few years, you're building wealth. Now here's what they're not telling you. Most people just compare the monthly costs and think, rent is cheaper, I'll do that. But the real cost of buying versus renting comes down to net worth growth over time. Let's run an example. You rent a place for $2,000 per month for 5 years. Assuming 5% annual rent increases, you'll spend roughly $140,000 in total rent over 5 years. Zero equity. Now, let's say you bought instead with a $2,900 monthly payment. You spend $174,000 over the same period, but $40,000 of that goes to principal. Plus, let's say the home appreciated 4% annually. That's a $87,000 gain in home value. Even after paying taxes, fees, and interest, your net worth could be up by $80,000 to $100,000 compared to nothing from renting. But wait, it's not that simple. Homeownership comes with hidden costs, repairs, property taxes that rise, HOA fees, and the big one, lack of flexibility. You can't just up and move. You have to sell or rent it out. That's a huge pain if your life isn't stable or your job might change. This is where renting still wins. For many people in their 20s and early 30s, renting gives them the ability to explore, grow, and stay agile. If you invest the money you're not using for a down payment, say $50,000, and grow it at 7% annually, that could outpace some homeownership gains, especially if the market underperforms. That's a smart move if you actually invest it. Most don't. Another thing that isn't talked about enough is taxes. Homeowners in the U.S. used to get big tax breaks, mortgage interest deduction, property tax deductions, etc. But after the 2017 tax reform, and with the 2025 updates coming, those benefits have shrunk. For many people, especially those not itemizing their deductions, the tax savings from homeownership are negligible. Renting doesn't give you tax breaks, but you also don't have to worry about capital gains unless you own investment property. Now let's zoom out and look at lifestyle. Owning a home gives you control. You can paint the walls, remodel the kitchen, build a backyard office shed. Renting doesn't. But renting gives you something just as valuable, freedom. Want to move to Bali next month? You can. Owning a home ties you to a location and sometimes to a job. Now, let's bring AI into this. In 2025, tools like Zillow are changing the game. You can input your zip code, income, rent, home prices, and future plans, and it'll simulate scenarios for 3, 5, or 10 years. These tools factor in inflation, home appreciation rates, tax scenarios, and even regional job market growth. It's not just about math, it's about predicting your life trajectory. Let's say you're single, 28, remote worker, paying $2,200 rent in Austin, Texas. You're considering buying a $350,000 condo. The calculator says if you stay there for less than 4 years, renting will likely be cheaper and lower risk. But if you're staying for 7+ years, buying starts to make more sense. Not just financially, but in terms of wealth building. Or let's say you're a young family with kids in Chicago. You find a home for $450,000. Rent in the same neighborhood is $2,500. The calculator shows that with appreciation and equity, your home could build $130,000 in wealth over 10 years versus renting. But that's only if you stay put. Move too soon, and transaction costs wipe that out. And we haven't even talked about interest rates. In 2025, rates are still higher than 2020 lows, but not as bad as the 2023 peaks. A small change in mortgage rate, like from 6.5% to 5.5%, can save you tens of thousands over a 30-year loan. Using AI mortgage prediction tools, many buyers are timing their purchases based on forecasts, locking in rates when models suggest drops. This is data-driven home buying, not just emotion-driven. So, should you rent or buy in 2025? Honestly, it depends. Use AI tools, check local forecasts, and be real about your 5-year plan. If you need flexibility or your job is remote, renting might be smarter. But if you're stable and ready to build equity, buying can still pay off, especially if you use modern tech to time it right. Don't fall for outdated myths. Renting isn't wasting money, and buying isn't always better. It's your life, your money, and your future. In 2025, the smartest choice is the one backed by real data. And if this helped you, make sure you hit like, drop a comment with your city and rent amount, and I'll respond with what AI recommends for your situation. Subscribe for more no-fluff insights like this. See you in the next one.